Hello! So today we are at Ponta Delgada in the Azores in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So before we go and have a look around the airfield, I thought I'd take you over to the Inibuilds website. So here we go. Lima Papa Papa Delta Ponta Delgada. It's just over £15, just over $20, so it's not very expensive. It's named after Pope John Paul II. So it has obviously a local name as well as its international name. So then you've got lots of lovely screenshots, as these airports always do on the internet. So let's go and have a look around it ourselves. I think it's always better to look ourselves than to trust the screenshots. So let's go and move the drone camera around, and we'll have a fly around the perimeter of the airfield. So the first thing you'll notice is the airfield's actually on a step. So it's above sea level, but it's also below the level of some of the surrounding fields. So it's obviously been cut out of the hillside. So it's worth saying the modelling of the airport is really, really nice. And it's done in such a way that it doesn't affect the frame rate too much. You can see how smoothly it's running. So let's go and pan down and scoot down to the far end of the airfield just to show you around it, really. So we'll move the camera over. So you can see some of the roads surrounding the airfield have been included in the scenery, so it's actually quite tightly integrated into the surrounding scenery, which I think is always a good thing to see in the simulator. Let's go and speed the drone camera up. So we've got the control tower down here, so we'll come in and have a look at it. Let's have a look inside. Everybody loves to see inside the control towers for some reason, even though you never actually look from here when you're playing the game. But sorry, simulator. Shouldn't call it a game, should we? Anyway, so you can see, yeah, they've put a lot of bits of detail into the control tower, so it's always nice to see. And there's various hangars and outbuildings down here that have been really nicely modelled. And obviously all of the taxiways and the paintwork on the floor is all done really nicely as well. So there's various buildings on the outside of the airport as well. There's a meteorological station here. So yeah, Meteorologico para what's it? Aeronautica Aeroporto de Ponta Delgada. So I can't speak their language to save my life, but hopefully I'm not embarrassing myself too much. So you can see, as I said, the integration into the surroundings is really nicely done. So you've got various bits of roundabouts and road signage all over the place, which are done really well. So let's go and take off again and have a fly around the far end of the airfield. So hangars down here and some industrial buildings by the look of it. And if we come back down all the way to the end of the airfield, so the fence is all the way around, done nicely as well. Windsock, radio masts. And as I said, although I keep mentioning it, the integration into the scenery is really good. It's one of the best I've seen. Like, there's this road junction down here, which obviously you would see at close quarters on approach. So they've modelled it. And it's really nicely done. But notice I said about the step. So the runway itself is elevated above the surroundings. So it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Coming over these buildings on approach. So then if we go and fly back up the airfield to the other end, speed the drone camera up so we get there in a timely manner. So obviously there's more buildings, more detail, more masts, more lighting gantries, more parking areas. But it's really nicely done. So yeah, I'm impressed with it. I really am. Another windsock. So at the far end of the airfield there's a footbridge here along the coast, which is nicely done. Or road bridge, I should say. So they've included that in the scenery as well. So should we go and have a look around the terminals? Just scoot up the side of the terminal, back to the car park. Slow the drone camera down. valiantly trying to slow the drone camera down. So we have a statue, I'm guessing, of Pope John Paul II. Obviously his name has been given to the airport. So then if we scoot in over the parking lot towards the main building, just try and straighten up the camera on the way. So you can see on some sides of the building they have got the internals modelled, on the rest they haven't, which I quite like, because that means then it's not going to murder the frame rate. So as I mentioned at the start, it's very kind on frame rate. So if we drop in around the other side of the building, and we'll drop into the terminal the way the passengers might come in. I'm just going to try and straighten this camera up on the way. There we go. So we'll come in through the glass and follow the route, the opposite route that the passengers would take, I guess. So we'll come in through here, and the internals are really nicely done. So let's go and pan slowly through the inside of the terminal. They're not the highest resolution people models ever, but that's helpful because it doesn't murder frame rate. They haven't gone over the top, and I really like that. There's duty-free shop. Be interesting to hear from anybody who knows this airport, to hear how accurately this is modelled. It looks pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if it's remarkably accurate. Okay, so let's go and fly back out through the window. So here's our PMDG 737. We're going to be taking off from the airport and flying off towards Lisbon. We're not going to do the whole flight, we're just going to do the departure. So I just thought it would be interesting to get an aeroplane fired up while we're here and take it on its travels. So I'm just preparing a checklist alongside it so we can work through it together. Let's press the insert key. We're now inside the aeroplane. So, although I have prepared it at SimBrief, I've already had a little look in the 737 a few minutes ago, and something struck me. I'll show you as we go through it. So I'm going to program the route by hand. So we'll take a few shortcuts along the way so we don't get too mired in doing everything. But anyway, Control 6 takes us overhead. Put the batteries on, flip the lid on that, and then we want to go down to the MCDU, go to FS Actions, Ground Services, request ground power be connected to the aeroplane. So then if we have a little look around here, there's the cart, and you'll see the umbilical go on. There it goes. The cable has been connected to the side of the aeroplane, so that will change to release any moment. Give it a chance. There it goes. Okay, so then we can go back overhead and we can say we want to use the ground power. So we flick over to ground power, bus transfers over, and we have power around the aeroplane. So then we can press Control 7 to go further overhead. We don't need dome lights, so we can leave that alone. We can go to nav on both of the inertial reference systems, and I think I've got it on instant alignment. If we rotate this round to heading status, it will come up saying 0 probably. There it goes, meaning it's already aligned. So that saves us some time as well, which is always handy. So coming further down the aeroplane, we want to go and arm the emergency lights now and cover them up. Go and put the window heats on and the probe heats. Okay, then we're going to go down and have some fun and games with the flight management computer, and I'll explain what I was getting at a moment ago. So it's saying enter IRS position, which is entirely predictable. So we'll press the menu button, go to FMC, we'll go to pos in it, we go next page, and we'll pick up the GPS location, go previous page and drop it in. And you'll notice we don't have the option of pulling in the route yet. So let's go and have a look at the electronic flight bag. We're going to request our data from SimBrief. So there we go, there's our flight from LPPD to LPPT, so Ponta Delgada. And you can see the basic routing there. And you can see, well, have we got the operational flight plan here? Yes, we have. So if we go, can we scroll down that with the mouse? No, we can't. So there's our basic route. The reason I'm taking note of this is if we go into the route page, if we do a flight plan request, it's got a file there, so it's not giving us the option of going to SimBrief, which is really odd. We don't want to, this is a file that exists on the file system, so I'm wondering whether I've just got an old version of the 737 and I need to go and update it, but I thought all of the 737s had the same functionality these days, or whether something's gone wrong. But anyway, we're not going to get too mired in that, so we're going to go and put the origin in. So where were we flying from to again? Let's go and have a look. So if we go to the not Inibuilds menu, FMC, let's go through and do everything, shall we? Pause in it. So reference airport, here we go. So we want to go from LPPD to LPPT. So LPPD. And we are going to, oh, we don't put the runway on yet, do we? And then go route. LPPD. Runway we're going to be departing on, let's go and have a look at Navigraph because it's quite easy to see these things. 12 or 12 is the runway we're departing from LPPD, and then we're going to LPPT. It's funny, I'm a bit rusty with the 737 because I just don't use it enough for it to be second nature. Let's see if this has changed its tune at all. No. See, this should have SimBrief listed, and it hasn't. It doesn't matter. We can go and program it. It'll be a good exercise to go and program a little bit by hand. So we go next page on the route. So we'll need to know these waypoints then. So we want Beacon. There's a custom one. That'll be good fun. So Beacon, B-E-K-U-N. So that's the end of the standard instrument departure. Then there's a custom one. We'll come back to that. Comet. So K-O-M-U-T. Then Lazette, and then the star starts at Lazette. Okay, so then we can activate that route and execute it. So if we go and put in these departures in, so we're taking runway 12, and then it's the Beku 5Y standard instrument departure. So then execute that, and then go to arrivals again and put in the other end. So runway 02, ILS 02 with the Laser 1A. So ILS 02, Laser 1A. Execute. So then if we go and have a look in the legs page, let's go and put that custom waypoint in. This will be a bit more fun than normal, won't it? So at 94 degrees and 153 miles from Beacon, we want to put an extra waypoint in. So what we can do is type in Beacon, then the bearing, so 094, then a slash, and then the distance, 153. And we'll put it in after Beacon, so in front of Comet. And notice it's called it Bec 01. So we'll execute that. Let's go next page, and it's put a discontinuity in. So let's just pull that back up. So let's go and have a look at that. Let's go and do a gross check of what we've got so far. So we want to put the navigation display into plan mode, and we'll widen the range out to say 160 miles, or 80 miles, sorry, 160 miles diameter. And let's go and do step by step. Actually, that's probably not enough. We want to see a little bit more. There we go. So we're going to go step on the legs page, and step, step, step. There's our custom waypoint. We've just made that one. And then we go on to Comet, Lazette, and so on and so forth. So that's a really good example of where you might need to put a custom waypoint in if you're doing things by hand. Okay, so we got the basics into the routing. Let's go and do the init refs. So we are flying at, well, actually, let's go and do the fuel first. We're going to put more fuel than we need just to keep things simple. So we'll go over to the menu button, go to FS Actions and Fuel, and we'll just set full fuel. We don't need it, but it will be fine. Do we have to press execute on that? I'm not sure if we do. Or why would it be grey? Is it because we've got too much on board? Or we were over gross weight, maybe. So that's putting 15,000 on board. We've got a warning here. We're payload cargo limited. Okay, so if we come back out and go to payload, we're not going to put the default payload in, so we'll turn the passengers down to say 50. We'll turn the cargo down to 1,000. And the aft cargo down to 1,000. Okay, so let's come back, go to fuel, and then can we go and then put some more fuel in? Yes, we can. So we're not overdoing it. There we go. So if we come back and then go to, what are we doing? Init refs. So we want to know the cruise altitude. We're going up to 39,000 feet, so 390. The weights will calculate themselves. Reserves, how much reserves do we need? So you can find that out quickly by looking on here. So final reserves is 1,000, so 1 on here. Cost index is 66. Execute. And go to the takeoff parameters, 5 degrees of flaps please. We've already put the SID in so it knows what runway, so it knows the direction relative to the wind, although we haven't put the wind in, but it's not going to harm it. It's got the trim level there at 5.86, so we need to go and adjust the trim manually in the 737. It's always a bit of a bind, but you get used to these modern airliners, don't you, where this sort of thing's done for you. You sit here waiting and waiting for this. This is where somebody will comment and say, oh, there's a button you can press to do that. Okay, that's that done. And then we're pretty much done with that. So all of the data's in, and we can see if we look through the legs just to do a quick check again, there's no discontinuities in there. So we'll leave it on the legs page while we're doing other things. So we can go over now to the mode control panel or master control panel for the autopilot. We'll put in our altitude. So 30, what was it? What was our top of climb? I can't even find my way around all the tabs I've got open now. 39,000 feet. So we'll just hold shift on and roll the mouse wheel to take this up to 39. There we go. We'll calibrate the altimeters while we're here. We'll turn the flight directors on. We'll go and set our takeoff speed to say 200 knots. Our initial heading, we'll set it to match the runway direction. So if we can pull up the airfield chart here, runway direction is 118 degrees. So let's go and spin that round to 118. Not that we'll be using it, because we can go and pre-select, or we should be able to pre-select LNAV. Yeah, this can be squirrely, and the different versions of the 737 are slightly different from each other. So don't worry, we can go heading select until we're in the air, and then go LNAV. It won't hurt it. And we could also, if we wanted to, before we go for VNAV, we could have a vertical speed programmed in, ready to go, of say 2,500 feet a minute. just so you've got, you know, backups in place in case anything goes awry on the way. You'd also normally go and set your courses to match your direction to begin with. So 118. I swore that we were going to do this quickly, didn't I? And I jumped down a rabbit hole. It's typical of me, really. Anytime I go near a complicated airplane, I get fascinated with doing everything and lose track of what I initially sat in it to do. Okay, so we've gone through the mode control panel, we've calibrated the altimeters. So control 6, we're going to go and start getting ready for pushback and engine start. So control 6, then we go seatbelts to on. So if I can find the switches for them, they go to auto in this one, don't they? Yaw damper can come on. Cabin pressure goes to cruise altitude, so 39, wasn't it? And prepare for engine start. So bolt, the rear fuel pump, after fuel pump goes to on. After fuel pump goes to on. APU can be started now, so we flick the switch, if I can get the mouse onto it, to start. And you'll see the exhaust gas temperature step up there, and we just wait for a few moments. So we've got a bit of a wait now for that to happen. Oh, we've got the golden hour of sunlight approaching. So you'll start to see some heat pouring out in a moment. This airport does look good, doesn't it? There comes the heat. Okay, so we've got the APU up and running. Bus transfer over to the APU, so the middle two switches go down. We're now no longer using the external power, so we can remove it. So we go control 3, was it? I can't remember the keys. Yes, control 3. Then we go menu, FS actions, ground services, release the ground power. So that will unplug it from the aeroplane. While we are here, we can also remove the chocks, and that will trigger the stairs to be pulled away from the aeroplane. So if we go and look outside, you'll see that's happening. The doors are closed, look, and the truck is getting out of the way. So we should start reversing anytime soon. And there he goes. So overhead, did I put the anti-collision lights on yet? I need to. So fuel pumps go to on. I think we had fuel in the centre tanks. Yeah, we filled the aeroplane up, I think. But anyway, they would show a warning if we didn't have fuel in them. APU bleed can go to on now. So that's over here on the 737. And we can push back. So let's go and press, look, watch this from outside, press Shift and P. While that's happening, let's go and make sure we haven't got the parking brake on. That's good. Clear the warning about the electricity. So we're running on APU at the moment. You'd soon know about it if you were only running on batteries, because it would discharge fast enough so you'd get a warning. Let's bring the range back down on the navigation display so we can see what's going on here. Although it's a straight out departure, so it's nothing to worry about. There we go, being pushed back. So during pushback we can actually start the engines if we want to. So to do that, if memory serves me correctly, we select a side for the ignition system to use, engine 2 to GRD, and you should see briefly, there we go, N2 is spooling up. So when that gets to 25%, we can advance the fuel control or starter lever for engine number 2. So we've got enough room to turn now, so let's press Shift and P to stop the pushback. We'll also go and pull the parking brake on while we're sitting here doing this. So we just come through, oh, it's gone to 29%, look, while we were busy. Multitasking is a nightmare in the simulator, isn't it? So we advance the start lever and the engine continues on, exhaust gas temperature is climbing, fuel flow is increasing, N1 is increasing. We're looking good. So when the engine's finished starting, the start switch will go back to off all on its own, and then we can do engine number 1. I guess you could taxi on one engine, but if you had 2 sets of hands, as a normal crew would have. We're going to put the taxi light on while we're waiting for engine number 1 to spool up. Notice I did both on the right-hand ignition system. You don't have to alternate them, the real crews might, to save wear and tear. But it just to illustrate, you can use either. So we're coming up towards 25%. Advance the fuel control or starter lever for engine number 1. And up it comes. So let's get the flaps to take off position while we're waiting. Just go and double check that because you can't quite see around corners in the airplane. So there we go, 5 degrees. So engines are up and running. We can bus transfer over now to the engines, which means we can then turn off the APU and the APU bleed, which was over there. Okay, so back overhead, just to keep this simple, we want to go and put the hydraulic pumps on now. Put the packs on to auto and turn. We already did the taxi lights, didn't we? So TCAS now, so control 4 will take us down to the tablet, so you can see down here. Put TAR8 on, the rest of it's automatic. Obviously if you're using ATC you can put your transponder code in. Okay, so let's go and release that parking brake. So hold the toe brakes in for a few seconds and it releases itself. Ease the throttles forwards. And let's just have a quick look where we are. We want to double back on ourselves to the right, basically. So let's press head tracking. Put the navigation display back on map mode. So we just taxi over to the taxiway, get out of everyone else's way. That airport does look really good, doesn't it? So it's Ponta Delgada in the Azores. So obviously there's 2 entry points here onto the runway. It's not the longest runway. So it's something to bear in mind if you're trying to come in here with one of the bigger commercial planes. I think it's about 8,000 feet, something like that. Okay, let's line ourselves up and stop for a moment. and go through the final bits and pieces on the plan. So auto brakes can go to rejected takeoff, position lights can go to strobe, landing lights can go to on, and we're pretty much there. So flaps are already in takeoff position. I'm just checking my list here. So yeah, throttle goes to toga. So it has got a button you can press which will make this happen for you. If you press the little button down here, it will go toga, but I'm going to go do it manually because I like doing things manually. You can go and arm the auto throttle.
3 knots. Rotate.
That crosswind is quite fierce, look, it's pushed us. Okay, let's get the gear up. This thing will climb. Like it, wow, it's just crazy, isn't it? I'm just dipping the nose down because that was a bit of a fierce climb, but that was half the fun of doing a manual departure. So we can go and turn on the autopilot, and we can go LNav and VNav, and the airplane will take over and fly the rest of the route for us, so we can go and make a cup of tea. Should we go and put the TFC on the main display, see if there's any traffic nearby? There shouldn't be. And we can bring the heading around to match our course. Same goes for the 2 course knobs. So just as we depart, let's have a look. It's lovely scenery, isn't it? Yeah, a real sense of the island. Good fun to come here and do an approach, wouldn't it? And coming in from this way if the wind was suitable. So you get to see the harbour, especially if the approach came in over the island. It's very cool. Okay, so let's put the legs page on. And we've probably gone through the transition altitude already, haven't we? Let's go and have a look. 6,000 feet, yeah. So we want to go for standard barometric pressure now. I think it's synchronized, yeah. And we're waiting just for 10,000 feet for landing lights off. Taxi light come off now. What's the light that isn't on over here? Oh, it's the anti-collision lights, that stays on. So just coming up through 8,000 feet. As soon as we get to above 10,000, I'll stop the recording, but I just thought this was a nice way of showing the airfield off, really, and the island. So you can see it's quite spectacular scenery. It would be good to come here with GA planes as well, to go and explore some of these hills. Just coming up towards 10,000 feet. This thing climbs so strongly, doesn't it? It really is great. Okay, so landing lights off. And we are on our way to Lisbon. Hope you enjoyed that. So I'll leave a link in the notes of the video where you can get the airfield from. So as a reminder, it's from Inibuilds, it's Ponta Delgada, and it's very reasonably priced. I think it's really good. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Well, I haven't raised the flaps. No wonder it climbs so hard. So hard. The great thing about auto throttle is it will take account of the flaps. Should we watch them winch them in? It's always good fun to watch, isn't it? Very cool. Right. Obviously now the aeroplane can accelerate. Now we've raised the flaps for it. No wonder it had such a steep climb out of the airfield. So I just completely missed that. Well, I was busy looking at the airfield instead of completing procedures. A common story with me. I'll see you again soon. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care.